United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
I'm your host, Megan Klingenberg. One thing I promised you is an all-access pass that you wouldn't get on any other show. And we found out that whoever comes on scores a goal. Burhope, Freeman, Trusty. U.S. Soccer Podcast magic is real, people. We still got plenty of coverage all throughout this World Cup. Okay, let's get into it.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
This Jocks 94.5 podcast is brought to you by Millennium Satellite and Video. Log on to msbnow.com. TV excellence everywhere. That's Millennium. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning starts now.
You know, one thing about NC State, who we just mentioned from ACC Media Days, is that schedule. We heard from Dave Dorn. We will talk a little bit more about ACC Media Days with Roddy Jones in a few moments. But you look at that schedule for NC State, Greg, it's one of the lighter schedules in the league. Now, they have a non-con at Vandy week 3. They're at Virginia to open the season, which is odd. You get a week off. That's week 0. You get Labor Day weekend off, and then you get Richmond, App State after Vandy, Louisville at home, Wake, week off. Then you're at Stanford, which obviously is a weird trip, but you do get the week off before it. Then you get Cal at home, Duke at home, Syracuse at home, and then you finish the season on the road at Florida State and at UNC. I mean, Florida State could have a fork in them by that time. They have no idea what to anticipate from UNC this year. We talked to Taylor Tannenbaum about them yesterday. Can it be much different? The schedule's there. If they can find a way for a few things to operate consistently, that they could put together a really nice season.
Yeah, I mean, they could. I mean, the schedule so much in the ACC is so big because there's such a big gap between the haves and the have-nots. I mean, look, top of the league, where you're playing them, when you're playing them, when they fall in the schedule, do you avoid them altogether? You look at NC State, for example. Like, I think NC State could get to the dang ACC championship game partly because of just who they play and where they play them. You know, that's the entire – they have a lot of questions on their roster, but I like their quarterback, I like their mindset, I like their schedule. So it's a strange league where if you get the right schedule and the chips fall your way, you got a real chance.
Absolutely. All right, let's bring in Roddy Jones. He works for ESPN, covers the ACC. They're at ACC Media Days. We were just talking NC State, Roddy, so I'll bring you in on the conversation. I love what I heard from Dave Dorn yesterday. Not that I should have been surprised by any of it, but confidence, just referencing his team, kind of some of the things happening in the weight room in the offseason. But you look at that schedule, too. Like how far can they go? How big of a surprise could NC State end up being this year?
It is always great to chat with you, boys. I appreciate you having me on. That is a dangerous question to answer, Cole, because I am with you and Greg. Like, I really like NC State, and I think Greg nailed it. You look at what Virginia did last year and somewhat what Duke did last year, making it to the ACC championship game. A lot of it is like, who gets good, consistent quarterback play? You're going to need probably a little bit of turnover fortune or close game fortune over the course of the season outside of Miami. And then who's got the friendly schedule? NC State they will be improved defensively with DJ Elliott in his second year on defense. I have faith in that. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, CJ Bailey is the top quarterback returning in terms of QBR in the ACC over Darian Mensah. He was second only to Carson Beck last year. Duke Scott at running back had a really nice finish to the season. He's a big, strong, fast back that I think will be an absolute star in the league. But then there's the history of NC State and the number of times they've been knocking on the door in the Dave Dorn era. I mean, he's been there 14 years, and there's probably been 3 or 4 of them where you think that is a good enough team to make the ACC championship game, and they lose at Clemson on a last-second field goal, or they or they have a quarterback injury with Devin Leary a few years ago, or they blow a lead against one of the teams down the stretch, Duke being one of them. So there's history fighting NC State. But I think in terms of sleepers in the league, they are as good a candidate as anybody, and a lot of it has to do with the progression of C.J. Bailey and the attitude and culture of that team, which I think will absolutely come to play on a week-in, week-out basis.
So when you look at C.J. Bailey and what was lost, I think C.J. Bailey's great. I'm just curious about the personnel around him. I mean, you lose a Hollywood Smothers, you lose a Noah Rogers, you lose a Jacarius Peak. I mean, what's their returning cast look like? What's the supporting cast look like around them?
Yeah, I think, the Hollywood Smothers departure is big, but, we running backs, we kind of grow on trees. And I think Duke Scott is an absolute fine, and maybe even better than fine replacement. I mean, he rushed for 196 yards against Georgia Tech. Not that Georgia Tech's defense was like, the 84 Bears, but, in that game, Georgia Tech came in with all the momentum, and NC State ran it down their throats with Duke Scott, and then he rushed for almost 100 yards in the bowl game. So I think they're going to be fine at running back. Receiver's the big question. Like, they lost everybody at receiver, and they were getting back Teddy Hoffman this year, but then Teddy Hoffman tested positive for a banned substance, a performance-enhancing substance in the offseason, so he's suspended for the year. So that is the biggest question. Replacing Justin Jolie at tight end, replacing all the receivers they've got. They get JoJo Trader in from Miami, who was a massive recruit and really like a brother to CJ Bailey out of South Florida. Went to Chaminade Madonna, played with Jeremiah Smith and CJ in high school. He showed flashes at Miami, but he also had a case of the dropsies. So maybe reuniting with CJ, a guy who he's super close with. They've played together since they were 7 years old. And at times I've heard JoJo basically lived with CJ Bailey. So maybe reuniting with him can unlock some of the potential of JoJo Trader, because he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, big time recruit. Outside of that, man, like, it is going to be a cast that I think is elevated by a really good run game and a really good quarterback. But that is the massive question about NC State, is the offensive playmakers.
They're going to win line of scrimmage in a lot of games. I don't think there's any doubt. I've watched their D-line this offseason, like what they're going to have there. Then that's just kind of what they give you every year. Roddy Jones joining us on the Higginbotham Highline talking ACC Media Days. Clemson will be there today. What do you anticipate? What's the messaging? What needs to be discussed? Does Dabo make a lot of noise? Is this a calmer visit? Obviously, he will be annoyed with some of the questions about last year. I think we all understand that. But is he past it, focused on this year? What do you anticipate?
I think we will get a calm, confident, a little understated Dabo today. He will not make excuses about last year. And nor should he. Like, the standard at the Clemson is that has been set by him was not met, and has not been met for a while, to be honest. Most people will ask about the quarterback position. That's the biggest question that I have. You're going to hear the name Tate Reynolds a lot, who is a freshman coming in, who is 6'3", 220 pounds. Like, I've been told he looks, like a fifth-year senior physically. The question is, can he play? And there's the Clemson, whenever you talk about Clemson and freshman quarterbacks that start getting hype, you automatically go to Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. Like, based on the high school reports of Tate Reynolds, he's not those guys. And honestly, you'd have to be, the number one recruit in the country to think that he was going to live up to those guys. But I think the question becomes, what do we see out of Christopher Vezina week 1 at LSU? And if it does look like it's a little shaky for Christopher Vezina, I do think there's the potential that we could see Tate Reynolds based on the reports, but you can only believe so much. So Vezina is a guy that threw for a ton of yards against a bad SMU pass defense last year in his only start, but he looked good. He was not the reason they lost that game. So he'll have to answer questions about that. I actually am kind of more bullish on Clemson than a lot of people. I think we will overreact to the record last year, and we can sort of point to it as like is this a sign of the Clemson culture and all that? Like, that was really the first year where they drastically underachieved relative to the talent. And I think there's a few reasons you can point to. I think their highly paid guys didn't play well. They don't have the same level of stardom and probably not the same level of NFL talent, at least NFL-ready talent right now. But they've got really good players. Like Sammy Brown, who was a freshman last year, is an absolute star at linebacker. Will Helt on the defensive line was their best defensive lineman. They've jumped into the portal and gotten some pieces that I think could be really good for them and really infused the program with some hunger. The questions and the receiver core is legit. Like Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore are phenomenal, and they're in their draft eligible years. So they should be even better. And if you get freshman year Tyler Brown, then it's probably the second most dangerous receiving core in the ACC behind Miami. The question is going to be quarterback, a little bit offensive line. How much can that offensive line, I'll say improve, but I think they underachieved basically like the rest of the team outside of Blake Miller. And then there's some questions at running back, but I think they'll be fine there. But Clemson was not as bad as its record. The talent was obviously not as bad as its record. So if you fix sort of between the years of the Clemson program, then I think there will be a natural progression back to 8, 9-ish wins, because it's still, on paper, probably the second most talented team in the league. And I think the NFL draft picks last year would certainly support that.
So when you look at kind of where the league is, and we asked Taylor Tannenbaum this yesterday, and I'm fascinated by your thoughts, because I look at Clemson is still very capable, still very talented, like you referenced. I look at NC State, they could be a spoiler. I look at some of these other programs, SMU, Louisville. I'm not sure which way I lean. I lean Louisville, but a lot of people like SMU. Who do you think is the next up behind Miami?
I'm with Louisville right now. I'm with you, Greg. The Louisville defense, the SMU defense scares me a little too much. That defense really took a step back last year. And they lose Scott Simons, and they lose a ton of experience on that defense, really on the defensive line and in the secondary in particular. So their defense scares me a little bit. But SMU has the quarterback, and Louisville has the quarterback question. The thing that I like about Louisville is that running back room. Like Isaac Brown, certainly in the ACC, he's the best home run hitter at running back that there is. And I think you could argue that when he's healthy, he's the best in the country. He had a phenomenal freshman year, was really banged up last year, and was never able to get back to full strength. But even behind him, like Kewan Brown has been fantastic as well. I am fascinated by what Jeff Brom is going to do with Lincoln Kienholz, because he hasn't had the mobile quarterback since he's been at Louisville, and really you go back to his Purdue days, like has not had a mobile quarterback. And I talked to him about it at ACC spring meetings, and he mentioned going back to his Western Kentucky days. Like he has not had a guy who can run it as well as Lincoln Kienholz. So and it was something that he was looking for. How does that offense evolve when the quarterback's legs are going to be used as a weapon? Tyler Shuck was very mobile, but they basically kept him in bubble wrap so that he'd stay healthy, and it worked. He had a phenomenal season, was a second-round pick. But how does that offense evolve, and how does it help Isaac Brown when you've got a guy like Lincoln Kienholz who can make some noise in the run game as well? And then I think getting Trey Richardson was big for them. Having a guy who has made as many big plays in the SEC as him coming over, even though he didn't participate in spring, he was banged up. I think it's going to be a big addition. So I really like this Louisville offense. I think Cleve Lubin on defense is a really good player, and I got some other really good defensive linemen in. So I like Louisville as that number 2 team.
Richardson forces teams to defend you in different ways. Not even him touching the football, just that speed makes things different. Is SMU the clear number 2 in the league for you?
No, I think it's Louisville. SMU, I like SMU, and I like Kevin Jennings. I think that offense is going to be really good, but defensively they were so bad, especially against the pass last year, that I'm scared away from SMU just a little bit. Like I think SMU is going to be really good. I give Louisville the slight edge. And then you look at some other teams. I think people are a little too quick to write off Virginia this year. They're not the number 2 team in the league. They're probably like 5-ish, but they're not a team that I'm hearing talked about enough. And when you look at what they brought in portal-wise, they had to portal in a lot, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But when you look at what they brought in, like there's a lot of pieces to like. And I think culture-wise, because of what they've had to go through in the Tony Elliott era, that culture is pretty well entrenched. And I think Des Kitchings is a pretty underrated offensive coordinator. So Louisville's number 2 for me. Then it'd be SMU, Clemson. But don't sleep on Virginia. Like it was not a one-hit wonder for the Hoos. And I think I don't know that Bo Prabula fit the Missouri offense as well as the way that they will tailor the Virginia offense to Bo Prabula. So I think you could see the best of him at Virginia this year too.
That's an interesting thought. I'll be interested to see that. And then obviously being healthy, big for him as well. Roddy, great stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on. Appreciate it. Enjoy Media Days. We'll catch up soon.
Appreciate it, boys. Talk to you later.
There you go. Roddy Jones talking ACC Media Days with us. Before we move on to discuss some thoughts we have on what Roddy said, if you're looking to move out of your home, Greg, who should you call?
It'd be Crocker Movers. There's a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys. You can trust them in your home. If your whole home back to move, your company headquarters moved across the country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room. These guys got you covered. They also will do deliveries for furniture that you purchase need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website's crockermoveservices.com. That's crockermoveservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Move Service for your next move.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about the ACC Media Days. It'll get going today before we go off the air, but I have a different topic involving things that we have or have not watched that I want to get into. We'll start that right after this on Jocks.
Jocks 94.5 is live on YouTube every weekday, plus video shorts and podcasts. Find us at Jocks 94.5 and smash the subscribe and like button so you never miss a moment. Jocks 94.5 on YouTube.
The United States Soccer Federation presents the U.S. Soccer Podcast.
I'm your host, Megan Klingenberg. One thing I promised you is an all-access pass that you wouldn't get on any other show. And we found out that whoever comes on scores a goal. Burhope, Freeman, Trusty. U.S. Soccer Podcast magic is real, people. We still got plenty of coverage all throughout this World Cup. Okay, let's get into it.
The U.S. Soccer Podcast, presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform. Scrolling with Haley.
I am Haley Karania. I scroll with the homies here in the live chat because there's a lot to scroll through on X, on Instagram, on TikTok.
Cutting through the clutter, one hot take at a time.
Love seeing you all in the chat before the show. I tried to jump in just a few minutes before to say hello. I love the chat interaction. Thank you for helping. But I do it to get all of the videos and all of the content that you won't find anywhere else.
Scrolling with Haley.
Just search that up and I will be there.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.